Hello everyone. In this session, let us learn about bitumen aggregate adhesion property. One of the principal function of bituminous binder is it acts as an adhesive either between the road stones and also between the aggregates and the underlying road surface. As we know that neither the bitumen nor the tar can be regarded as an ideal adhesives, but in general, with the proper precaution are taken care, both the bitumen and tar are adequate as a binding material. The bitumen binders what we use that should have a capability to bind together all the components of a bituminous mixes without bringing any positive or negative changes in their properties. The ability of a bitumen to adhere to a aggregate surface depends upon the nature of the aggregates or especially the surface charges of the aggregates. The presence of water on the surface will prevent the adhesion. If the road stones are wetted, it can lead to many difficulties either in the initial coating of damp road stones in maintaining an adequate bond between the binder and stones. And this problem can persist in two ways. Firstly, due to the aggregates being wet before laying or before preparing the bituminous mixes. Secondly, the problems can arise due to the effect of rain after the bituminous mix have been laid. The adhesion between the mineral aggregates and the bitumen is an important criteria which describes the quality of the bituminous mixes, performance and also the resistance to the distress. The lack of bonding between the aggregates and the bituminous can lead to the significant damage to the pavements. The effect of loss of binding property because of the presence of water can be explained with stripping phenomenon. Stripping is generally defined as the breaking of adhesive bond between the aggregate surface and the bitumen. There are several mechanisms which will explain the occurrence of stripping or which will define the cause of stripping. The studies have shown that the stripping can occur because of any of these mechanisms which may act individually, or the stripping can also occurs because of the combination of one or two mechanisms. Ultimately, it will lead to the adhesion failure in the bituminous mixes. The water-induced damage in the bituminous layers can be associated with mainly two reasons. The first reason will be the loss of adhesion. The second will be the loss of cohesion. When water gets into the aggregates and it forms a thin film around the aggregates, the bitumen will strip out of the aggregates, leaving behind the aggregates without any bituminous coverage. This mechanism or this cause, we can call it as the loss of adhesion, and the stripping can also occur because of the interaction of water with the bitumen, and which will reduce the cohesion property of the bitumen, and which will lead to the stripping, and that we generally term it as the stripping can be occur because of the loss of cohesion. This picture here will indicates the mechanism of stripping. Now we can see here the aggregates are coated with a thin film of bituminous binder around it. In presence of water, if there are cracks in the bituminous mixes or if the aggregates pores exist, the water may get into the bituminous film and it may cause another layer between the aggregate and the bitumen. So in presence of water, this particular layer of film of the bitumen will be stripped out, leaving behind only the aggregate. It will not have any cover of the bituminous layer, and this is termed as the stripping in the bituminous mixes. So now here you can see this is how the HMA mix or hot mix asphalt mix at the time of mixing. So you can see that all the aggregates are interconnected. So we have the large size aggregate asphalt binder and the small aggregate. The small aggregates are coated binded into the larger sized aggregate. When the stripping occurs, so you can see this the gap or the adhesion between the small aggregates and the larger aggregates have been lost. This is because of the stripping, because in presence of water that bituminous thin film has been stripped out, and which will lead to the lack of adhesion between the various aggregates. Once the stripping occurs, aggregates become loosens, and that will be removed under the traffic condition. The aggregates will be removed out of the bituminous mixes, and it subsequently leads to the formation of the potholes. If the potholes are not treated properly, it may lead to the complete damage to the pavements. Now let us learn how the stripping will occur, how we can explain the stripping mechanism. There are 5 different mechanisms by which the stripping of the bitumen from an aggregate surface may occur. These 5 mechanisms include the stripping because of the detachment, displacement, spontaneous emulsion, pore pressure, and hydraulic scoring. We'll see one by one how the stripping will occur because of the various reasons which were stated earlier. The first cause why the bitumen stripping can occur is because of the detachment. Detachment is nothing but the separation of bituminous film from an aggregate surface by in the presence of thin layer of water, and with obvious no break in the bituminous film. Where stripping by detachment has occurred, the film can be peeled cleanly from the aggregate, indicating that there is a loss of adhesion. The second cause will be the displacement. The stripping by displacement results in the penetration of water into the aggregate's film. So you can notice here there will be a break in the bituminous film, whereas in the detachment it is not necessary that there should be a break, because the detachment can also occur when the aggregates are wet. Whereas the displacement occur, we have the aggregates which has been neatly coated with the bituminous surface, but in the presence of water, the water can get into the between the aggregates and the bituminous layer through the breaks that are there in the bituminous film. If the stripping occurs because of that reason, we call it as the displacement. This break in the bituminous film can be caused by the incomplete coating of aggregate initially during the mixing, or film rupture because of some location the thickness of the bituminous layer will be very thin. Under the tension, the film will break. This will be probably when the aggregates have sharp edges and the corners of the angular aggregate pieces. The next cause for this stripping can be explained as a phenomenon of spontaneous emulsion. So we know that we already learned what is an emulsion. Emulsion is in the water medium, the bitumen globules are suspended. When we have the stripping because of the spontaneous emulsion, here the bitumen and the water, these two are termed as the two-phase system. Here it will cause an inverted emulsion. Generally we say that in the emulsion, bitumen globules will be suspended in the water. When you want to call it as an inverted emulsion, its case is reverse. Instead of the water act as a medium, here the bitumen will be the medium, and within the bituminous medium a small water globules will be suspended, so that we call it as the inverted emulsion. So when such inverted emulsion takes place, leads to the stripping, and it further get aggravated in the presence of emulsifying such as the mineral clay and some of the bituminous additive. The next cause is because of the pore pressure. Pore pressure has been suggested as a mechanism of stripping, especially in the high void mixes where water may circulate freely through the interconnected voids. Upon densification of the mix from the traffic loading, water may trap in impermeable voids at previously permitted water circulation. Further, the traffic may induce high excess of pore pressure into trapped water, causing stripping of bitumen film from the gates. And the last reason is by the hydraulic scoring. Hydraulic scoring is the mechanisms of stripping that is applicable only to the surface courses, because you can notice the hydraulic scoring only in the surface layer. We'll understand what is the hydraulic scoring first. So usually we will have the vehicle wheels that are moving on the surface of the road. When during the rainy season or in presence of water, this water will be there, a thin film of water will be there in between the tire and the road surface, and as the vehicles move forward, this will exert the pressure and push back the water layer. So this phenomenon we generally call it as the hydraulic scoring. The stripping due to the hydraulic scoring will result from the action of vehicle tires on a saturated pavement surface when the pavement surface is wet, especially after the rain. This causes water to be pressed down into the pavement in front of the tire and immediately sucked away from the pavement behind the tire. So you can see that as the vehicle moves down, the water will be pressed and it will be pushed out of the interaction between the tire and the road surface. This compression tension cycle is believed to contribute to the stripping of a bituminous film from the aggregate. Thus, the stripping can occur because of any one of the reasons that we have stated now, or due to the combination of one or more reasons which may contribute to the stripping. In the next class, we'll see how the stripping can be eliminated and the precaution measures to prevent the stripping. Thank you.